All right, let's get rolling, everybody. Welcome in one more time. Welcome to another Wednesday morning. And you know what Wednesday mornings are all about? They're all about entrepreneurship. And we are gathered here at the Emoji co-working space once again for another edition of 1 Million Cups. While you're here, grab your phones, check in. You can hit the QR code on the screen. There's also one located here in the studio. Checking in helps us to make sure that we've got adequate resources for, we got enough coffee brewed for everyone that's here and all that kind of stuff. It also helps us to track the efficacy of the program and how far our reach is making it into the community. So please do your part. Help us, to know what's going on and who's here. The mission of 1 Million Cups, as we discuss every Wednesday morning, is to lower the barrier of access to education, resources, and connection for all types of new and aspiring entrepreneurs throughout the United States. Today, today we're having a fabulous conversation. We're having an interesting conversation with Kelly Toth from Solid Waste Services is going to be talking to us about some different recycling options. Kelly? Yay!
Thank you. Well, cool. What a great opportunity here. I don't have a beard.
That's fine.
Is this good? Okay. Okay, there we go. Can you hear me now? Sorry. Okay, so I'm Kelly Toth. I'm with Solid Waste Services, and I'm the recycling coordinator. And thanks for the opportunity today. I'm new to this group, and just wanted to give just a couple minutes to share what we're up to at Solid Waste Services, and then also talk about opportunities for the future. So first of all, we could even start with just talking about the title, recycling coordinator, because recycling coordinator to me means that you're making the whole loop, and that goes into the whole system of recycling. And I didn't bring a PowerPoint today because I wanted to go old school and just bring some posters here and to talk about solid waste services moving forward, and then we can talk about doing a formal PowerPoint in the future. But as a recycling coordinator, I would like to rebrand it and talk to all of you about helping to flip the script on what that means to be a recycling coordinator. I'd rather change the title to be a resource recovery facilitator, so that what we can do is stop thinking about everything that you throw away, because there's no such thing as a way. It gets buried in the landfill. Whatever you put in that trash can gets buried. And with less than 40 years left of usable life of our landfill, I feel like this needs to be an elevated conversation, that we really need to talk about what can we do to divert materials away from the landfill. Now, how does that tie in? Well, if we're diverting it away from the landfill, I think this is a perfect opportunity to talk about changing our trash, that we think about things as trash and look at it more in terms of cash. So as entrepreneurs, I believe that there is a tremendous opportunity here for people, and that's the kind of conversation that I'd love to have and to discuss. And so when we think of those materials, I would like to specifically talk about cardboard, because for me, I think about cardboard as being the Cinderella story for entrepreneurs, and I'll explain what I'm talking about. Before I get to the example, I want to talk to you. It's really fun to do this old school presentation because I don't have this crutch of a presentation behind me to talk to you. But so think about it in terms of the processing of recycling. So you have an aluminum can. I want to talk about the life of that aluminum can. It could, and in most cases, actually last year in Anchorage residents recycled, took those aluminum cans, 5 aluminum cans per person all of last year. That's like not much. So I was just speaking with David about some low-hanging fruit, some easy ways that we could make some big changes. So instead of throwing those aluminum cans in the trash, away, not away, buried in the landfill forever and ever, amen. Instead of going into the trash, we could take those recyclables, put them in the recycling bin. They get baled together into these large bales, and then they get shipped down to the West Coast, where they end up eventually at a smeltering plant. The beautiful thing about aluminum cans is that material can be recycled over and over and remade into other materials over and over with an infinite lifespan. That's what I'm told. Infinite, I question, but it can be changed. Aluminum can be made into new products without degrading the material over time. So what a great item that could be recycled, that whole thing. The problem with Alaska is that we do have some geographical constraints. We can't just put these bales of aluminum cans on a rail car right now and send them over to the smelter plant like they can on the West Coast. We have to put them on a barge, and then they get shipped back down. And at this point, I would say thanks very much to our great partnership with ALPAR, Alaska for Litter Prevention and Recycling, for working on those backhaul contracts with all the barges that come up with all of our goods. They work on the contracting with those companies that then backhaul all of it down. So we're constrained right now by the number of containers that are sent down to the West Coast. So what else could that look like? What are other items that could be diverted out of the landfill? Cardboard. So think about the process. You have to be able to have a place to collect these items. You need to be able to transport the items. Then those items need to be processed in some way. Then we need to have a demand for those items or a landing place. If you think about it from a cradle to grave kind of concept, taking that aluminum can, it needs to be able to go through the entire process. And so thinking about that in terms of cardboard, we are getting inundated with cardboard. We have got to get a lid on cardboard, and I mean that for real. So back in 2017, we did a waste composition study. So we looked at what does a certain section of the landfill look like in terms of how much is in there. 56% of what was going into that landfill at that time during that study was considered, could be feedstock for organic material for composting. And a lot of that, a very large amount of that, out of that 56% was cardboard. That was pre-pandemic, back in the day when online sales were just starting to sort of ramp up. So you can imagine the volume of cardboard. Remember back in the day, cardboard stores, we had big box stores that were bringing in all of their freight, but they were also, at that time, they also backhaul a lot of it on their own supply chain. Now you've got online sales those cardboard boxes are going to each and every household. And what's happening is from those households, a great majority of that is ending up in the landfill. So what can we do for that? Cardboard is actually it is a larger priced commodity that can be resold on the secondary market, but that means that cardboard has to be baled together and then sent out of state and then sold to a paper mill, which is what happens if you recycle your cardboard. Cardboard also is a great secondary recipe, really important piece of recipe for composting. So if you're a composter, browns, cardboard is a great brown. It's a carbon resource that can be shredded up and utilized in your compost. So that is a really good idea that I'd love to see. If you're interested in the Cinderella story, and I'll finish with this because I might be out of time, is that I encourage people, because the municipality of Anchorage does not endorse any particular business or product, but we're talking about entrepreneurs and startups. So I want to give you a perfect Alaskan example of a business that started in South Anchorage. Diamond High School teacher started this company and then sold it, and now it's out in the Matanuska Valley. It's called Thermal Cool Alaska, and what they do is they take cardboard from the surrounding areas and they shred this cardboard, and it turns into mulch for like hydro seeding. It also is turned into pet bedding that they retail. It's turned into blown in insulation for houses, for residential. You can buy it at baled up in big box stores. And they also have another product that is called AK Zorbit, which is for like fuel spills, where you can put it on the ground. So they are manufacturing, utilizing that secondary manufacturing. They're taking used cardboard, they're mashing it up, and they're turning it into another product. And there's a demand for it. So they're able to retail it and then sell it. So it's closing that entire loop. So again, as my position as resource recovery, looking at what items can we take out of the trash can and then put it out there for entrepreneurs to be able to think, what could I do with this product? Crushed glass is another great example. Composting, another great example. So we have coming up, we have started this new Anchorage Composting Coalition. So there is a group of people in this town that are very, very passionate about getting more composting and infrastructure and programming going. So this is one example of a user group that wants to take a look at how can we stand up a composting program. And so would love to give a shout out to our partners that we have so far, Yard Utopia and Anchor Gardens, Master Gardeners of Anchorage. There's a whole bunch of groups out there, and I know that there's more. So if you're interested in this kind of thing, if you want to have more conversations about trash to cash, if you want to talk about the recycling program itself, I'd love to have some larger conversations about that. And I really believe, I was born and raised here. I've, been here forever, and believe that Alaskans, with our innovation coming together, we can solve this problem. It would be much better to find ways to manufacture our own resources right here at home instead of having to ship stuff out to the lower 48. And so how can we have that conversation, and how can we as a state support and make room for more manufacturing, because we don't have a whole lot of it, but what we do have is pretty cool. And so it'd be neat to see more of that moving forward. So thanks for the opportunity to just throw it out to the universe and say, let's figure this out. Let's roll up our sleeves and figure it out. So did I go too long?
No.
Okay, thanks.
All right.
And cheers for our coffee.
That's right, for all the coffee. Let's open the floor up to questions and answers here. Anyone have any questions for Kelly regarding the recycling program?
Oh. Want to leave it open for anybody else.
Anybody out there in Zoom land?
Don't let me forget about upcoming events. I forgot to share.
Hi, hi, Alan. This is Carrie Jean Shepherd. How are you?
Carrie!
Hi, Kelly. Thank you for a fantastic presentation. I am a coach at the Alaska Women's Business Center, and we have a client who is interested in starting an aluminum recycling plant in Anchorage, but with the idea. Oh, already in the room?
No, I'm saying ding exciting.
Ding, ding,
Sorry.
Oh, ding. Okay, sorry. I thought maybe she was in the room. I can't
Sorry.
see.
No, we don't
But
want that.
and then she'd like to perhaps create a kit so that other communities around Alaska can also recycle theirs into usable aluminum sheets or other things that are needed, in terms of construction materials. I was curious, one of the challenges that we're encountering is, industry expertise, funding, et cetera. Is there any interest, or is there a model of an organization like yours partnering with an entrepreneur and providing them kind of some guidance or seed money or a small contract to develop ideas like this?
That's a really big question. So if I didn't say it from the beginning, and I'm not to give myself the out card, but I'm brand new to this. So I started in this role July of last year. So I'm calling the new kid card, at least for the first year. But I will say that I am going to a conference where I will learn more about how other states do this kind of thing, and how to help stand up this kind of infrastructure. Because I do believe when we talk about the whole process, as I was talking about, when you look at the entire process from start to finish, you've got to have all of those different pieces and parts and components together. And I believe that it's not like you're going to be able to call me up and I can give you a recipe on how to do that. I think it's just going to take everybody kind of coming together to make that work for Alaska. But I do believe there's models out there, and that's what we have to explore.
Excellent question. Thank you, Carrie.
Yeah, thank you.
And I really appreciate the bringing together of, just a quick second, forgive me, Kelly, but I want to thank our community partners with the women's business, with the Business Impact Northwest, and they're coming in and to the community here recently, and the work that they're doing. And so if you're out there in 1Mcups world, and you're looking for help with your startup, Women's Business Center, the Small Business Development Center, great resources out there in the community for you to take advantage of. So thank you for stepping up, Carrie. I appreciate that. Any other questions? I have a quick question for you. So we were talking about the composting and everything, and that ties in with the curbside organics program.
Mm-hmm.
I've loved that program for the last several years, but I have to admit, I haven't taken advantage of the other side of it. Like, to me, it's been very useful, and I have been meticulous at making sure that my yard, there's nothing that goes into that but the grass, right?
Yeah.
I keep my yard clean. There's no dog mess in there or anything like that. But then I always forget to go and pick up the mulch on the other side. And I just had a question about, like, do you know how that works?
Yeah.
I know that's not what you're here to talk about necessarily.
No,
So forgive me for asking.
I love talking about compost. It's one of my favorite concepts. So great question, because before I started, as I understand it, there was a pilot program that we had the pink carts that went out, and we had the curbside service. And part of that was you could come and get a free 5-gallon bucket of compost at the end. The problem was, as I understand it, because I'm getting this second, third hand since I wasn't there, was that folks were coming to get more than 5 gallons. It was more like a truckload. And I'm one person in the entire program. So if you can imagine that one person was then having to supervise that process by themselves. So we had a capacity problem. And then right now, the way the composting works is that all the compost that is collected through the curbside compost program is then transported out to Palmer. So we were having to then take the truck would go out to the farm in Palmer, and then the truck would have to then make another trip separately to go out and pick up finished compost and bring it back to be able to send it out. So it just wasn't, the whole process just wasn't efficient and didn't really pan out, and it didn't make sense for a lot of those reasons. Again, back to that schematic of the holistic approach and how it all works. How do you pick it up? How do you transport it? How do you process it? How does it come back? How do you create the demand and do? So they did away with the free finished compost part.
Okay.
So we still have the curbside compost, but I want people to know that people who have said, I want my finished compost, like that's the reason why I was doing it. I'm telling people we are creating with this Anchorage Compost Coalition a larger web. And what we've talked about is that we want to come at this compost program at a couple different levels. We want to meet people where they are, and we want this program to work for them where they are. So if you have a backyard and you want to learn how to just do your own composting, how much better that is for the environment, because you have your food comes into your kitchen, you make your scraps, you compost it. No transportation needed. Then it fortifies the garden that you're growing. Now you're making healthy, nutritious, awesome food right in your backyard. Great.
Plus it smells good.
We want to stand up the educational infrastructure to be able to make that happen. So people who wish to do that, we're doing classes and workshops this year. So we being the Anchorage Compost Coalition, which includes Yard-Utopia, Anchor Gardens, Master Gardeners of Anchorage. So all these different partners, we're going to be bringing that kind of education and support to the community. There's also the community level. There's a lot of community gardens, and there's a lot of family dwelling units around those community gardens that might not have a backyard. They can bring that compost to that community garden. Now you've got a little bit of transportation maybe, but you're composting it right there at the community garden. And then we have the curbside curbside composting. We also have a community drop off at our Midtown location where people can bring their compost and just dump it in. We're standing up 2 new programs this year, a workplace composting program where you can sign up to get a black bucket with a screw top lid and some signs, and you can have your workplace start bringing it. And it was cool because last year we stood this up and we actually had people, I made a salad last night and I brought my scraps in, and then they put it in the bucket and then it goes right into the community. So that's going to be a fun new pilot program that we're going to try. Cool. And Yard-Utopia has a couple different places where they actually bring in composted items, and they offer free finished compost. I tell people, grab your pitchfork and go help Nick because he needs help turning those piles. It's a big social time. You can go out there and talk composting, learn more from other gardeners. They have browns. Remember I talked about the feedstocks that are needed to make compost? They have leaves. Go take a bucket of leaves if you want to take a bucket of leaves. You want free finished compost? Go take a bucket of compost. It's just, we'd love to have a little bit of help along the way. So folks that want that free finished compost, there is an opportunity out there. And so I think that, and then the other thing that we would like to do is we have these 96-gallon carts. We'd love to be able to see businesses grab one of those 96-gallon carts and have a neighborhood depot where, if you could imagine a neighborhood business, and then all the neighbors could bring their composting there and then we dump it. So we want to try that too. So we're going to try the 96-gallon business depot and the workplace composting program. We'd like to just try it. We're trying to find ways to make little collectors here and there rather than depending on a larger, we want to decentralize is really what we're trying to do, if you think about it in those terms.
Have you had any conversations with like community councils?
We have, I started out having conversations with community councils when I first started, and then it's been like trying to be and go and do as much as I can. So I will definitely get back into talking to all the community councils in the future. Yeah. Yep. But I think that's a great way to engage in folks. And I believe that many hands, grandma always said, many hands make light work. So we can all get together and find out some way to do this, that would be awesome. The central transfer station is new. The new central transfer station is coming. That's something that will be opening at the end of the summer. So, yeah, 56. Yep. So stay tuned for that opening. Earth Day is coming April 22nd. There's a couple of really neat events coming on. One is the Midtown Mall Master Gardener spring event that they're doing on Earth Day. There's also the Restore Habitat for Humanity is going to have an event on April 22nd. So there's a couple of really good Earth Day events that are coming on. There's a kids event that's being sponsored through the Migrant Education Program, and that's coming. So lots of neat events, which I will make sure I put on our website. So wanted to make sure I got those events in there too.
Cool. And just to add on that, the thing that I really appreciate about this, the street side, the curbside organics, even though I haven't been able to take advantage of the composting piece, is that still solves a huge problem.
It does.
In that previously I would have, 2 or 3 bags of grass going out with the garbage to go away forever in a landfill, right? Well,
Exactly.
20,
And
30 years or whatever.
let's just break that down. So why do we want to divert compost? Is because anything organic, because we know that organics, when they break down, create methane that contributes to the greenhouse gas. Something that I didn't know was that even once the landfill closes after 12 or 40 years, it will continue to produce methane for another 30 to 40 years. So that's something, it's a huge lasting effect. And then also, it helps to reduce the amount of leachate that comes out of the landfill. There's a lot of great benefits and reasons why. Plus, it's not trash. And that's the flipping of the script that we need help with, is your food scraps are not garbage. Your food scraps are a huge resource that amends the soil to grow the food, to make it better, to make your food more nutritious and lower carbon footprint, because it's being grown right here, which is great for everybody for lots of reasons. So you had a question, sorry.
I got 2 actually.
Okay.
And you mentioned that cardboard was kind of the low hanging fruit of the, recycling of all the things that we could recycle. Cardboard's the lowest hanging fruit. But I was just wondering if there were any local efforts for glass, because that's something that every time I, have a beer bottle, it just goes right there. And I kind of feels a little helpless. Like, what can we do about this? Can we pulverize it, put it in our concrete? Like, is there any local effort there? And then the other one was, is there any sort of initiative in like elementary schools? Because you get buy-in from the kids. Like, I still have embedded in my psyche the energy saving pamphlet I got when I was in kindergarten. And, you get these kids to buy into it and it becomes how they live. So I was just wondering if there's anything at ASD that anybody at ASD you guys are working with on this.
So yep, 2 really great questions, and hopefully I can give you a good succinct answer to both of them. One is, glass. There are a lot of people that are very, very passionate about recycling glass because of the emotion that it feels like when you throw that glass away. What I am told and when I ask that question to the folks that I see as subject matter experts in this recycling and landfill management here in Anchorage, is that what are the items that make the biggest difference? Glass, if it's crushed and it's buried in the landfill, first of all, the airspace after it is crushed is minimal. You're not taking up a lot of airspace. That's something we're trying to preserve in the landfill. So if you have a wine bottle and it crushes down, it takes much less airspace. If you take a refrigerator box and you crush it, or maybe it doesn't get fully crushed, it's taking up a lot larger airspace. So glass is not really the problem. Glass is not really, if you really want to get after something, it's the cardboard in the volume and the breakdown that occurs. Glass is made, basically, it is as it explained to me when it's broken down is more like sand. You can actually get those glass crushers, which I would like to get one just to pilot it someday in my dreams. But you can pop a bottle in that grinder and it comes out like sand. And then it's just sand. It doesn't give off any gases. It doesn't break down any further. That's what it becomes. Cardboard, when it breaks down, becomes a feedstock for compost, and it's a great home for the bacteria and all those other things. And when all of that magic happens, that's what creates the methane. So that's why there's two different, that's why we're looking at cardboard that way. And I hope that helps. But yes, we are collecting glass. There are rumors out there that we're not collecting glass. We are. Let me dispel that myth. We are collecting glass. We are crushing the glass. We take the glass from the regional landfill and West Rock Recycling Center, which is a private company, but we have our bins over there where we do collect the glass, and then it goes to Central Recycling Services where it's crushed. But remember, I talked about that 50,000 foot view, or the holistic whole process. What we're missing is the demand piece of that crushed glass. So that's where manufacturing and entrepreneurs can come in and go, we're going to take that glass and we're going to do volumes of it. I'm not talking about pretty artistic ornaments, because you're not going to go through tons and tons. Maybe you will if you set up a recycling or a manufacturing plant or something. But that's what we need. We need that innovation to take that crushed glass and turn it into something. And that's the conversation. That's part of the presentation that I'd like to do later, because I really wanted to bring some in for you to share, but I just wanted to talk about it today. And later we'll really get into it, and I'll give you the nitty gritty on all of that. And then your second question was ASD. So right when I first started, my background, where I came from, so this is my Sitka Harbor U.S. Coast Guard Auxiliary Cup. My background is actually in boating safety, and I managed the Kids Don't Float program for almost 10 years. It was 9 years, I guess it was, or just over 9 years. So that Kids Don't Float program was all about working in the schools and working with the children. We set up an ambassador program where they trained the younger students. That's the same kind of template that I'm trying to build for ASD to be able to do that. It just takes time to roll it out. But the first thing that we did right out of the gate was we offered tours. So we called it the Beyond the Curb tour, and we had 6 or 8 Anchorage School District health teachers on there in service. We were one of many other tours that were available, or activities that were available in their health tour or in their health class in service day. Those 6 teachers came with me, and we showed them the entire project or the entire Beyond the Curb, what happens to the garbage when it comes to the central transfer station, when it goes to West Rock Anchorage Recycling, when it goes out to the Anchorage Regional Landfill. They got to see the landfill gas to energy plant. They got to look at all the waste and be able to identify all the things that could be diverted. And it's pretty shocking once you get to that point and you look at the face and go, holy cow, there's some great opportunities here. And then also went down to, you can go to Alaska Scrap. They do a lot of scrap metal recycling down there, and the Central Recycling Services. So we did offer those tours. We still do. Some product that's going to be coming out in the future that I would love to work on is a video to be able to provide that tour, but in video format. So that's something we might be working on in the future. There's a whole host of things that we hope to do and we plan to do. It just takes time and effort to do all that and to stand this all up at the same time. But I have done presentations from that tour. There were teachers that invited me in to do a presentation with the students, and also worked with the Girl Scouts and did a presentation with them. So yeah, we're working on that. And also the power of worms. I could go on and on and on. Like, this is stuff that I love talking about. So, so let's just create a space and talk about it. We could talk about worms for an hour, probably. We could talk about compost for an hour. We could talk about glass and cardboard and mixed paper and e-waste and producer responsibility, and holy cow.
Yeah. Yeah. Have a whole sustainability month. That would be
Yeah,
fun.
exactly.
Yeah, we have our EV project. We've got our large trucks coming in with the electric vehicles and we have one on the street now. Her name is Megs. And so we've got a lot of stuff going on, but
Do we have any waste collection center?
what's that?
Do we have e-waste collection up here?
We do. It is run by Total Reclaim. It is a private business, but we are working on that too. And so there will be more efforts for collecting of the e-waste moving forward.
I got one more question.
All right. And then I got a question from the chat.
So I really need the mic.
That's what folks online.
I assume you're familiar, but there's a shop in town, Furnish Studio and Salvage, and they paired with somebody local who is collecting plastic and turning it into lumber.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. Is that something you guys are aware of, thinking about, anything that like partnering with,
Yep.
that sort of thing?
Yeah, so I asked him if I could call him Pat the Plastics Man, and he said, I'd never heard of that before, but it sounds pretty good. So Patrick Simpson with Alaska Plastic, he has a micro manufacturing plant that really lives in a large Connex, and he basically grinds up the plastic, warms it up, heats it up, and then extrudes it through a mold and then creates this plastic lumber. And yes, we're talking daily almost sometimes about that. And so there are some pilot projects and some fun things that we're working on that I will announce when they're finalized. But yes, we're definitely in contact and working together. But to your point, I will say, I feel like a kid in a candy store because every single day I make new connections with new people that just makes that momentum continue to grow. And there's so many things that are going on in this town that I don't know, that we should know, that we could connect people to. And so that's what's so awesome. So thank you for the opportunity to be here today, because I know there's a lot of stuff that I don't. And so let's get together, let's make those connections, and let's, tell the world about it. That's how we do stuff. That's how we get stuff done.
Question for you. You mentioned about the business in the valley that recycles cardboard.
Mhm.
Is it something that you can drop off cardboard, or how do they collect it?
You would have to contact Thermocool about how
Okay.
and where they get that. I
Okay.
don't know about that, but I will say if you've ever not been to the Matanuska, I'm going to do a shout out to our counterparts in the Valley, my friends out at the Matanuska Valley Recycling Center.
Mhm.
They are awesome. It's like going to Disneyland. Like, it's such a positive vibe out there, and they are so awesome. They do some really neat things out there. So if
Yeah.
you've never been to the Valley, definitely check out that. And but I don't know the nature of his business. I just Lauren Maxwell from Channel 2, I'll give a shout out for them too. We spent the day together. She came to the landfill. She looked at all the cardboard that was at the face, like I mentioned, that we see. And then I told her about Thermocool, and she went out there and did a whole story on it. So it's on our Facebook page. Our website has a lot to be desired, but has a lot to be desired. It's not that great, but Facebook, Twitter, we're out there on social media land. So that'd be the best place to catch us.
Is it called trash?
No, it's the branding, also something I'm working on, but it's Solid Waste Services Municipality of Anchorage. So I think maybe we can put a link or something in our chat
can do
or
that.
whatever, so people could connect. Easy way to email me is recycle@muni.org. Easy way to get in touch.
Recycle@muni.org.
Yep.
All right, I'll type that in the chat. While we're doing that, I got a question here from chat. Is there anything in place or in the future to address the medical waste, wrappers, and plastics?
Oh, sounds like a loaded question to me. What a great opportunity to talk about Remade. So the Remade store, and I have items in my office from Remade, but they are a fantastic group. So at the Central Transfer Station, they do have a place that's open where you can bring your furniture, your household goods, anything of value. You can drop it off there before taking it to the tipping floor where it goes to the landfill. So if you've got items that you think are of value or that someone else might enjoy, you can drop it off there. Remade has another great Cinderella story. I was gonna save it for the next time I came back, and I was gonna bring all my really cool items that I got from Remade, but they have such a feel-good program over there. It just is very heartwarming because people who are senior citizens or other folks that may not otherwise be employable or employed as a full-time job, they can go to Remade and they can sew these bags. They use the medical medical material that's utilized in hospitals, like to wrap their equipment and stuff, but it's like comes to the landfill in droves. And somebody saw an opportunity and said, hey, could we use that material and make it into stuff and sell it at the store? And so they did, and they are. The medical material, I guess you'd call it, is, I believe, waterproof or at least water resistant. So you can lay it down on the ground for a nice picnic table or a little picnic blanket. You could also use it as drop cloths in your house. And so people who are looking for augmented employment can go there and volunteer their time, or maybe work out a deal with them. I encourage people to reach out to Remade. They have an awesome store. It's off of Old Seward. Again, I'm not endorsing any place. I'm just talking about where you can go to see where these items get remade into new items and repurposed. So in terms of repurposing materials, they do some really cool stuff. They paint on things, and they'll take car parts and turn it into a lamp and all kinds of other neat things that they do there. So, but yeah, that medical waste is really neat. They make little tote bags. They do the drop cloths that are folded up really neatly, and you can buy a packet of those. And then they also have, like, somebody took jeans, like old jeans material, and cut those up, and they turned them into small stuffed animals and footstools and all kinds of stuff out there. So thanks for the question. I'll bring them next time.
Excellent.
If I get to come back.
All right. And real quick, what was that email address again?
Recycle@muni.org.
It was muni.org. Okay, thank you. Next question. Can you make or mix in road materials out of the crushed glass?
So that gets into the conversation, which I have recently reached out to. I've heard that in the past, I just don't know all the whole full story. And remember, I'm getting this secondhand right now.
Absolutely.
But what I'm told was there was some testing that happened with utilizing that crushed glass in as aggregate for road material and potentially for concrete. And so there's something about the, it's called the PM&E. It's like the specifications for utilizing this material and its approval, like for engineering projects and that kind of thing. So we're definitely reached out to a couple of folks in that world to ask that question. I've also heard that it was in a pilot project for traction sand, potentially for the railroad and some other places. Again, I'm one person. I'm trying to reach out and do as much as I can in all these different areas. But we do have questions. We've asked questions, and hopefully we'll get some answers. But if you're, again, crowdsourcing, like Grandma says, somebody has an answer out there, I'd sure love to hear it. So.
Very good. Any last questions for our presenter today? All right. We always like to finish with the final question. What can the entrepreneurial community do to support you?
Help me get some demand for these items so we can divert more from the landfill. Yeah, thank you. And cheers.
That's right. Cheers.
I mean it. Cheers, you guys. I'm not kidding.
You're supposed to, everyone, clank your glasses.
Clank. Cheers, my dears.
All right. Thank you very much. I appreciate your presentation.
Thank you.
Kelly Todd, Solid Waste Services. and the recycling coordinator. I love the work that you were doing here in our town. Let's get this projector warmed up and working again. Come on, Sparky, let's go. We know what we're doing every second here. We never make mistakes. No cooperation. Just cut to the chase. There we are. All right, it's coming back up. So let's move on to the segment of our show we like to call community announcements. Anybody out there have any community announcements to share? We had some folks on the road here last week. Anything coming up or in the last week or so that? All right, sounds good. No community announcements today. Moving on. If you'd like to join us on our socials, 1MillionCups.com/Anchorage is our website. You can go there every week to see our presenters, to check in, or to engage with the community. We also have our Facebook.com/1MillionCupsAnchorage, Twitter.com/1MillionCupsANC. Please join with us, connect with us on your socials, and do us a favor. Take pictures of the presentation, post it on your social medias, help us to grow our network. If you think we're doing good work, if you like what you see here, and if you appreciate the reach that 1 Million Cups has, please help us to grow and expand that reach further. We'd love to call ourselves the front door of the Anchorage entrepreneurial community. If you'd like to present at a future 1 Million Cups, no problem. All you have to do is go to 1MillionCups.com/present, and you can be up here on this stage at a future version of 1 Million Cups. I'd like to personally thank you all for joining us here today. I'm your host, Alan Caraway. I also want to thank our benefactors, AK Version 3, the Umoja Co-working Space, and the AK Coffee Company for their generous caffeination and support of this program. Thank you all. We will see you again next week for another edition of 1 Million Cups. Have a great day. Okay, I think we're clear.